And we're back in the room once again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Caiman Show. Joining me today is wrestling royalty. He's handsome, he's brave, he's strong. You may know him as one half of the fabulous Rougeaus. You may know him as one half of the Quebecers. You may know him as the Mountie. Today, we know him as Jacques Rougeau. Jacques, thank you for coming on. It is a genuine pleasure. Welcome to the show, sir.
Well, thank you very much. What a great intro. I'm glad to be into the Cayman Islands right now. And this is going to be a great podcast. I can't wait.
Fantastic, my friend. Fantastic. Great stuff. So how things been over there, man? Anyway, everything good?
Everything's good. It's been a long winter, and we're just looking forward for the sun to take his axe a little higher up in the sky and get the heat back. And so, yeah, it's been, we had the coldest winter, the coldest month of January in 30 years.
30 years.
So 30 years, it's the coldest winter we had. So much for the global warming, huh?
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's giving you guys a miss, that's for sure. So, yeah, obviously, want to talk about wrestling with you. This is why we're here, right? So I guess my first question, if your game, is just looking at taking a step back in time to the very beginning, really. So basically, how, where, when, and why did you break into this crazy business?
Well, it wasn't a choice of mine. It was I'm a third generation wrestler, you know, and so my great uncle was a wrestler, and then my father and my uncle were wrestlers. They were the original Rougeau brothers, Johnny and Jacques Rougeau.
Ah, awesome.
And then came Jacques, one of the two brothers, had three sons, which was Raymond, my brother, myself, and my brother Armand. And so we were the three Rougeau brothers. And then I had three boys who they were wrestling too up till 3 years ago, the fourth generation.
Yeah.
So when I was young, I was like 4 or 5 years old. I was around the house, and my father always had these guys come over to the house there to talk business, like Abdullah the Butcher and Joe LeDuc and all these great talent and scary guys, scary looking guys.
Yeah.
And so I got used to it when I was really young. And so that's how I really got into wrestling. It was part of my life.
Fantastic stuff. That's great. Brilliant. So how old were you when you actually laced a pair of boots, first of all, then?
You know, I was probably wrestling in the backyard probably when I was 5 years old, but lacing my own boots there, I would say I would have to be like 15 years old. I started doing some backyard wrestling in a few little organizations in front of 20 people, 15 people. And then finally, when I hit the age of 17, I took my nerves up and I made my first call to a Stampede Wrestling, which is Bret Hart's family.
Of course,
the Hart family. And Stu Hart, I called Stu Hart up. And my God, that was such a great experience, because I don't know if I know you know who Bret's father is, Stu Hart. But I don't know if you ever heard him, how he talks and stuff like that.
Yeah. Many times. Yeah.
You know, he did the first call I made to him. You know, I had no idea who it was. There was two big families in Canada. There was the Harts in the west and the Rougeaus in the east of Canada. And so when I made my first call there, I remember getting on the phone with him against my father's will, because my father thought I was too skinny. He used to call me Bones all the time, my father. And I kept telling him, I'm ready to go wrestle on the road. And he was always telling me, you're too skinny. So finally I decided, you know, like, hey, I went to see my mom instead. And I borrowed $500 from her. And then, so I called Stu Hart and I said, and this is how it went. It was so funny. I said, yes, Mr. Hart. I said, my name is Jimmy Rougeau, because Jacques is my name in French, but my mother was English. She called me Jimmy.
Ah, right. Okay.
So I was like, well, this is Jimmy Rougeau. And I'd like to come wrestle for you, you know. So he answers me, says, well, are you part of that Rougeau family there? And I said, yes, I am. He said, yeah, your dad there is a tough guy there, huh? And what a character. And I'll tell you, but it was amazing, you know. And so finally he told me, he says, yeah, I'll take you in. So I went to Stampede Wrestling, you know, and I was 17 years old. And in those days, Bret was driving the bus. He wasn't even a wrestler yet. So what a great experience. And it was so funny because since he had so much respect for our family in the East, he kind of gave me a little personal attention. Like, you know, he's always taking care of me and stuff. And he would always invite me over on Sundays, it was our day off, to his house. He had a house on the hill. and he had about 15 kids, and he had about 20 cats in the house, and it was like, it was amazing. And so I'd have lunch there, and we'd all eat at noon, and then about a couple hours later there, before I head back to my hotel there, he'd always invite me downstairs to his dungeon, you know, where he stretched a few guys.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've heard some stories. Yeah, I'm sure you've got some yourself.
And yeah, but I was a little smarter than that. I always had something to do. I was always busy. I couldn't make it down there. But,
Yeah.
So he stopped inviting me for lunch after a while when he kind of sized me out there. But what a great experience it was.
Brilliant stuff. Brilliant. So fond memories working in Stampede.
Oh yes, my God, it was amazing. Just you know, it was amazing to see, well, my first territory, of course, and landing in, I call it landing into the real world. I was 17 years old. I was just a kid, and then they brought me to this. When I got there, they suggested me this hotel, which was cheap, you know, because we weren't making a lot of money. So I was making like, I think $285 a week, 250 a week. And I had to pay my hotel, I had to pay my food, I had to pay my trans, you know, 3 cents a mile, you know, and traveling around. And so I went to this place there in downtown Calgary, but not the nicest part of Calgary, you know. And so they had the Indians drinking every night in the streets, and they had the whores that were walking around the hotel. And it was like, wow, you know, I'm 17 years old here, you know, and I'm caught up in this world. It's like, you kind of grow up fast, you know.
Yeah, a bit of a baptism of fire, if you will.
But anyway, it was a great experience. You know, I went there in 77 at the age of 17 years old. And then I came back home for a little run, and then Montreal. And then in 78, I went back again.
Fantastic.
And for a second tour there for another 3-4 months. And then from there, 78, I went to Mexico.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
Calgary. And that was wild, because going to Mexico, it was like going to a place where the wrestling is completely different.
That's what I was about to ask you. What were some of the differences that you noted straight away then, from crossing over from Canada to Mexico?
Well, you know, it was amazing, because first of all, the language barrier. I mean, the language barrier was like, you know, I thought going to Mexico at the beginning would be great. You know, I could imagine all the beaches, the palm trees, and the nice girls. And then, but when I got there, I was living in Mexico City. It was the industrial part of Mexico, and they didn't speak English or French. So it was like, and I didn't know a word of Spanish. And so it was like learning some words. Like, you know, I'd go to the restaurant and then the girl would tell me, "Oh, no me gusta." I'd say, "No me gusta, no me gusta." And then I learned like that the whole language. I was there for 3-4 months. And one of the hard things was, a couple of hard things. One of the hard things was traveling, because we were traveling in this bus going from Guadalajara to Mexico to Puerto Vallarta, and to going all up the hills and the mountains, and with the cliffs on each side, and the driver being drunk when he was driving, and everybody in the bus just speaking Spanish. I couldn't hear a word. And I always felt like, you know, they were talking about me, you know. I felt really not at the right place. But business wise, the hardest thing of that was the altitude. You know, it was like Salt Lake City in the United States. A couple of places in Mexico was like 4,200 feet high. So when I get in the ring, I'd do just 1 or 2 moves and I'd be blown up. You know, I needed some air. So that was a very hard thing. And another thing too, I was a very good tag team player. I was a tag team partner when I was young, and with my brother Raymond. And when I was over there, they had different rules. Like, you know, when we'd want to switch guys in the ring, we'd have to tag, you know, make a tag, you know. And over there, they'd do a high spot, you know, and something, boom, and the guy'd be gone outside, you know, after flipping 3,000 times in the air, and he'd roll out of the ring. And next thing you know, I'm waiting for the tag in the corner, and the boss would give me shit all the time. He would say, "Roro, get in the ring. There's no tag. There's no tag."
No tag.
But for me, it was like, you know, all these years before I went to Mexico, you know, like 3 years of working tag team and stuff like that. And so it took me a little while to adjust. But finally, after 3 months, I'd say I cracked, and I left Mexico and I came back home. But what a great experience, because the time I'd left home a couple of times already in my career, when I went to Calgary, I came back with a few new tricks, because I took the guys in the ring, you know, and
that's it.
But when I went to Mexico, holy shit, I was very athletic. you know, so I picked up on a lot of kind of backflips when you roll on the guy's back and doing some stuff. And so when I came back home in front of my usual crowd that usually see me at a certain point and see the guys that are always local that never travel, then I come home with 1,000 new tricks. And, you know, that's what got me popular. It's because so I guess it paid off on the long run, but not without saying a couple of collateral damage, but it was a great experience to go to Mexico. It really was.
Brilliant stuff. Sounds awesome, man. Sounds awesome. Well, my first memories of yourself would be from, I think the first pay-per-view I saw, Fabulous Rougeau Brothers, was Royal Rumble. I'm not gonna pluck a year out of midday. It was late 80s, I believe. Fabulous Rougeau Brothers. So again, I remember one thing that stuck in mind was the theme, the entrance theme, All American Boys. You guys sang that, yeah?
We don't like heavy metal. We don't like rock and roll. All we like to listen to is Barry Manilow. Hey,
All American Boys.
All American
Boys. Brilliant.
Yeah, that was awesome. But you know what? Didn't you see WrestleMania 3?
Yes, I did, but I went back in time to watch WrestleMania 3.
Andre the Giant against the Hulk Hogan, 93,000 people at the Silver Dome, the Silver Dome in Michigan. That was something.
Absolutely.
You know, you need a golf cart. A golf cart to get to the ring. It's so far. You know,
that's right. That was crazy.
People.
Yeah.
And the match wasn't even finished in the ring, and you'd already start getting on the cart to go for your match.
Crazy.
They didn't want to have too many loose ends during the show. You know, they wanted to keep it tight. So, but that was amazing. And then, of course, then there was new things like Survivor Series, Royal Rumbles that appeared, and all kinds of new pay-per-views, because they would be so hot after WrestleMania 3, that people were demanding pay-per-views.
Absolutely.
So they had to find new titles and new things to do. And so you probably caught a Royal Rumble there down the line there.
That's right. I caught the Royal Rumble first, and then I remember then shortly after I went on holiday to Cyprus, and that was when pirate VHS was running wild, you know, and there was these shops just full of wrestling videos. So I just went right back to WrestleMania 1, boom, 2, 3, 4. I just grabbed a load. I practically filled a suitcase, and you could watch them at the hotel as well. Then, you know, being the kids, the parents at the bar and everything. A few of us wrestling fans who'd been doing whatever moves in the pool all day were there then. But so I sort of caught up then. I started on that Royal Rumble I mentioned and sort of worked my way backwards while coming forwards. And
was I against Tito Santana on that one, or which Royal Rumble was it?
It was a tag team bout. It was yourself and Raymond. Who was it? It was when you first started. You were
Greg
coming
the
in
Hammer
with...
Valentine. Was it the Valentine and Beefcake? No, Greg the Hammer Valentine. And
no. I don't think it was that one.
Okay.
I'll have to look back on it. But
maybe the Hart Foundation.
Yes, I think it possibly could have been the Hart Foundation. Yeah. Again, I'd have to check, and I'd have to check what Royal Rumble it was as well. But it was. I think it was the opener. You came out All American Boys. That was apparently the new theme for you guys then. So it was awesome. It was highly entertaining. It was just great character wrestling and technical wrestling as well, alongside, you know.
You know, it's funny because, like, say 35 years later, I go in Comic-Cons all the time, you know, around the world, and one of the major things that people bring up to me is that song. Yeah, you know, they love that song, All American Boys, because
it's fantastic. It's fantastic.
We had a French version on there too, like, you know, a little French part, you know. Yeah. And it was so funny because we were trying to tell all the Americans that we moved to Memphis, Tennessee.
That's right. Yeah. With the little American flags. Yeah, they were great.
That we were so happy to be, and we were wishing everybody happy Thanksgiving on Independence Day. It was the wrong holiday. You know, it wasn't. And we were having so much fun. But in French, it was a lot worse. We were telling them we like to make them hate us. We like to make them mad. We were saying it in French, so they didn't understand what we were saying. So it was. And then we get back to the English version, like, oh, we're all American.
Yeah.
But it was a really classic, that one. And you know, it's funny because we had a lot of classic. I remember the song too, like I Am the Mountie.
Yes,
You know,
of course. Yeah.
You know, I'm so handsome and brave and strong.
That's it, brilliant. Well, that's how I introduced you. He's handsome, he's brave, he's strong. It's fantastic. I was going to say, bit of an ongoing theme, you know, so singing, recording your own theme music there.
But Jimmy Hart was the brain behind all that.
He was,
you know,
was he? I thought he might have been.
You know, yeah, because Jimmy Hart in the 50s and the 60s, he was part of a group called the Gentrys.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like the Beatles and stuff like that. But he wasn't as hot as the Beatles, but he was in a group on Soul Train, like in Georgia and in the States, where he was in the 20 top hits every week, you know, on the billboards, you know, and so he was really a professional singer. So when he came to WWF, Vince used his talents, and every time that a talent needed a music, he'd go see Jimmy Hart and he'd say, "Could you create a song for him? Could you create a song for him?" So fantastic. Jimmy Hart was the genius behind all the music in WWF.
He's a legend, absolute legend.
Oh, he's the best. And you know why he's the best? I'll tell you why Jimmy Hart's the best. A lot of people ask me, you know, I go around and interviews and stuff, and I always say that Jimmy Hart is the best manager of all times. And people say, "Well, of course, Jacques, he was yours, you know, of course you're going to say that." But no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that out of a guy that has 41 years in the business professionally. I'm going to say why he's the best. Because if you noticed that every manager that I knew, whether it was Mr. Fuji, whether it was Bobby Heenan, whether it was whoever, they would always say, "You know what? My man's going to win tonight because I'm the brain. I'm this and I'm that, and I know how, and I know this and I know that." But Jimmy Hart was the only manager who would never take the attention. He'd always say, "Let me tell you something about the Hart Foundation, baby. Let me tell you something about the fabulous Rougeau brothers. They know how to work as a team. They know." It was always giving the credit to their men, instead of taking the men like the other managers that would always try to be insecure. They would be insecure. They wanted to make sure that they would tell everybody that they're the brain behind the team, but that's not how it's done. And to be honest with you, any wrestler, any professional wrestler that would have the chance, like I did, as the fabulous Rougeau brothers or the Mountie, to have a guy like Jimmy Hart, who every time has such visibility around the world, he was so great, and all the attention he would give was to his man, you know, instead of giving it to him. So I could tell you, I honestly feel like when a guy like that, he does this all his career, and he must be in the business now over 50 years now in the business.
Easy.
And he's still there rock and rolling, man. He's everywhere. I see Jimmy Hart in Comic Cons, and you should see the lines of people that get, sometimes I'm jealous. You know, I got my line there, my little line, and Jimmy Hart's got a line all the way up to the street, you know. And the only thing he did is he gave value and credibility to everybody else.
Yeah.
He never took
respect
it to him.
for that. Total respect.
So that's a great manager, if you ask me.
Fantastic stuff. Appreciate that. Awesome. So looking at your start in the WWF then. So how did that come about? Where were you? Did you call them? Did they call you?
Yeah, they called me a long time. They actually, I had a difference in Montreal. I had some differences with Dino Bravo and Ricky Martel and a group that people that were running the business in Quebec. And I didn't think they were giving me a straight value of what I was. And especially with my brother Raymond. You know, so I had my differences with them, and finally I was unhappy with them. So I just left. And as soon as I left, it was like in '85, I went down to Pensacola to work for the Fullers, Robert and Ron Fuller.
Yeah.
And then as soon as Pat Patterson, who was the right-hand man of Vince McMahon, you know, he's really, he knew everything. He did everything for Vince at the time. He was a French Canadian, and he'd come from Montreal, and he'd worked with us for a long time with me and Raymond, you know. And so when he found out that I had left Montreal unhappy, he called me down to Pensacola, and he called me up and he says, "Jacques," he says, "listen," he says, "Vince would like to have you, and they would like to have you team up with Rick Martel to come in, you know, as the team." And you know, and I said, "Well, you know, not really, you know, because I knew WWF was a jungle. I knew like all the guys were on steroids, and they were all like, the word was out that it was a bunch of gorillas that were there, you know? And, so it was crazy. So I didn't want to go with Rick Martel, because me personally, I'm an artiste. I'm not a fighter in life. I'm not an aggressive person, and Rick Martel isn't either, you know. So I was saying, you know, but my brother Raymond's a tough guy, you know. He's a really tough guy. So at the time, I was like, I had differences with them. I was in Pensacola. So they asked me, they said, Pat told me, he said, "Listen, we're going to open Montreal for the first time with WWF in a smaller venue, which is 5,000 people. It's called the Verdun Auditorium, and it's on the island of Montreal. And we'd like for you to do the main event. So I said to myself, wow, what a way to get revenge, on these guys that don't want to use me well.
Absolutely epic, yeah.
So I said, hey, I'll go do a shot, I'll go. So that's how I went the first time. And when I went in 85, I did the shot. And then finally, it didn't take 2 minutes. I got the call from Dino Bravo and everybody else, like, hey, come on back, come on back.
Yeah.
We'll give you everything you want, and everything is good, it's good. And I came back. But for a year, I came back, and I started teaming with my brother Raymond. We had all the breaks that we needed and everything. I was happy. But then Pat Patterson didn't forget, because when I went a year earlier, I wrestled in main event for WWF in that small venue of 5,000 people. They actually opened the first WWF show in Montreal with me as a main event against Samu, one of the Samoans.
Yes, yeah.
And we got along really good, and he was a hell of a worker. So I went in and I tore the barn apart. Like, I'll tell you what, the people went, they put me over in the middle of the ring, and it was like it was an amazing moment. But then after that, that's why Dino called me back, and they saw the threat of the WWF coming in and taking over the territory. So finally, that's when they suggested for me to go with Rick Martel as a team. They kept telling me that, and I kept saying no, and it was funny. They called me for over a year. For 1 year, Pat Patterson kept calling me all the time, like, Jacques, Vince wants you. Jacques, Vince wants you. And finally, I told him, I said, okay, I'll go at the 2 conditions. I said, I want to have $5,000 a week, because I knew there was a lot of traveling and a lot of stuff and hard work, and we were gone 25 days a month without being at home. So I said, I want $5,000 a week, and I want my brother Raymond to come with me, because I knew I'd have my bodyguard with me.
Fantastic.
So that's what they agreed, and that's when Raymond and we left. So then the business in Montreal after that took a big drop, because without the Rougeaus in Quebec, it was like almost having the Beatles without John Lennon. So it was like, so we were very well respected and known, since we were the 3rd generation, and it goes on and on. So that's how it came upon. And I end up with, I remember the first day I went to Stamford, Connecticut, when they gave me my 2 conditions, that I would have 5,000 and my brother. So they flew us into Connecticut, Stamford, and the big limousine picked us up at LaGuardia, and they brought us to Stamford, Connecticut. We were like in dream. We were like almost like a rock star who goes to Los Angeles, or plays in Madison Square Garden for the first time, And so we were all really excited about that. And I remember sitting in the office in Stamford, Connecticut, a big office off the highway. It was huge, WWF. And I was sitting there in this room, and finally I got the nerves to ask Vince, after him telling us what he wanted to do with us and this and that. And then I asked him, I said, Vince, I said, actually, I didn't say Vince. I was so impressed. I said, Mr. McMahon, I said, can I ask you, what are your plans for us? And then he looked at me and he says, the sky is the limit.
That's a good answer, I suppose, isn't it? That's a great answer.
I found out later on that he had told that to a lot of boys, but anyway, but it was amazing. That kind of seduced me. It was like, wow, the sky's the limit. Holy shit.
Definitely. Show me the sky, baby. Show me the sky.
So yeah, that was a great entry, I must say.
Excellent stuff. What was your relationship like with Vince?
Awesome, all the way up till he didn't need me anymore.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. It was we had a lot of fun. I did a lot of great things with him, and so many great things. And because of him, I own the fact that today I got in every Toys R Us. I got dolls. I was Intercontinental champion at one point for the shortest reign, but I still had it for 2 days.
I still remember that reign. I remember that reign.
I beat Bret the Hitman Hart to drop it 2 days later to Rowdy Piper.
Rowdy Piper, yeah, that's right.
But that was amazing. It's funny because then again, I took some pictures then, on those 2 days I had the belts, and 30 years later, when I go in Comic-Cons everywhere, every picture, every doll has the Mountie with the belt.
Absolutely, of course, it's gonna.
I only had it for 2 days. I must have made a real good impression.
Yeah, 2 days more than many, right?
But anyway, all that to say that and then I became 3 times tag team champion with the Quebecers, Carl Ouellet.
Fantastic.
So that was, so, you know, I owe a lot to Vince today. I just feel bad of one thing, and that's that I'm not in the Hall of Fame because of our personal relationship. And I know and now I found out that he does that to some guys, like, you know, that he didn't have a nice ending with. He uses his personal feelings to decide who goes in the Hall of Fame. And like any other sport, that's not how it works.
No.
It works by statistics, you know,
Absolutely.
and what you've done and what you've accomplished. And everywhere I go, as a matter of fact, everybody wants to start a thing like they're doing for demolition right now. You know, demolition is not in the Hall of Fame. That makes no sense either.
No,
you know,
none at all.
I feel, honestly, to be honest with you, I don't know. I haven't watched wrestling in 30 years on TV, so I don't know the talent. When I got turned off, I got turned off.
Yeah.
And but I honestly think, and I believe, that every talent that was on WrestleMania 3 in front of 94,000 people and had the nerves and the I don't know if I could say this, but the balls to get in that show.
You could say that.
And not break and not crack and give him a performance like that should be in the Hall of Fame, because WrestleMania 3 is in the Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame, and in everybody's mind. You know, when you go back in those days, Andre the Giant against Hulk Hogan, when he picked him up at the end and he body slammed him. And so I honestly think that I'm hopefully maybe in time that there will be another kind of Hall of Fame that's going to be around the world or something like that. But the good thing about it is everywhere I go, people say I'm already in it in their hearts. So I could live with that.
Yeah. I'll echo that statement for you right here as well, my friend. Hand on
Thank
heart.
you.
Good stuff.
I appreciate
you deserve it. You deserve it. So tagging with Raymond, how was that for you? An honor, a privilege, easy, great
easy,
stuff.
Yeah. Well, you know, it was easy because Raymond and I were considered at the time one of the best tag teams, underrated tag team, because the things that worked for me and Raymond, it was like we'd worked so many years together in our home league, you know, in Quebec League. And blood is thicker than water, you know, and I was beside Raymond since I was 1 year old, that I remember, you know, like, you know, and being around him, I knew how he was, I knew how he thought, I knew how he. So when I'd get in the ring, you know, after all these years, I could do a high spot with anybody, you know, and I'd never have to look behind me, or I knew where Raymond was, I knew how he felt, I know how he thought. Something would happen in the ring where it was unorthodox or it was unexpected. I knew how Raymond was going to react, so I could react to counter-react to it. Like, you know, so when you have that shimmy with somebody, it makes it that when you're in the ring, you're at your finest. Like, you know, even when it's going bad, you'll look good because we could compensate knowing what he's thinking. And I think that Raymond and I, we had such great talent together because we had learned from the right school where everything we did cheating was behind the referee's back.
Yeah.
He would never see it. Never. We had fun just doing stuff that the referee turned around and we'd be like, legit. Like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And people were screaming like mad and we're saying, what's up? And then the referee would try to catch us sometimes. They could never do it. Because that was our specialty. And, you know, so people really believed that we were smart, you know, and that's what we picked up. We had a lot of good heat in the ring. And plus, we came from, like I said, a third generation of wrestling. So you know, it's not something that it's not like you take a plumber and you ask him to go do an electrician job. You know, it's like we were born in wrestling, raised in wrestling, and as a matter of fact, I think when I was born, I took a belt when I came out of my mom, and I said that's what I'm going to be as a wrestler. But so when you have that in you, in your blood, you're going to be a good wrestler if you learn and you try to be the best at it. You'll have the fundamentals that are not only in the ring but in your genes, like you call, in your blood.
Brilliant, excellent. So obviously,
I noticed, Caiman, that you say a lot of times brilliant and brilliant. Is that an expression where you come from?
Yes, it's just, I think it's just a Welsh thing. It's a Welsh Valleys thing, you know. But yeah, brilliant. Also, you might pick up on the odd fabulous or fantastic as well. You know, it's fantastic. That's what I use a lot. Fantastic, fantastic.
But brilliant, that's the one who keeps coming back to mind, because every time I do a podcast in Europe, you know, brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. I think it's very much.
No worries.
No worries as well. Yeah, no worries, mate. No worries at all. But yeah, I don't know if it's Welsh or it's British, or as I say, it's more of a British thing, I think. Yeah. But hey, all good. That's what I say a lot as well. All good. But So I've shouted from the rooftops. I've told a lot of people that you're coming on. A few people have pinpointed an incident from back in the day. All right, I think you know which one I'm talking about, the Bulldogs Incident with the British Bulldogs. So we've all heard the story, or we've heard certain sides of the story and whatnot. I just wanted to ask you how you feel about that incident today and what went down there.
Well, you know, some bad things came out of that, some really bad things, and some really great things came out of that. And the British Bulldogs, when we came into WWF, they were my idols. You know, they were what a phenomena. Their team, when they made such an impression. Raymond and I, when we came in, you know, it was amazing. We looked up to them like, wow, what a team! Like, this is the team. This is really the team. And we had a match in the Madison Square Gardens against them where there was a 20-minute time limit, and nobody won the match because that's what Vince wanted at Broadway. And I think that upset them a lot. And Dynamite had this small man complex. You know, he was such a great wrestler and great performer, but he wasn't tall. So he took those steroids to get really wide and stuff. So I think he was always afraid of his position, although there was nobody as good as them. You know, but I think that they were really insecure about losing the belts or having another team come up and take their place. And they were, I wouldn't say Davy Boy, but Dynamite was a real bully. Dynamite was he was doing things to make the guys laugh, you know, and the small little things at the beginning that got a little bigger and a little more serious, and his jokes weren't funny anymore. And like cutting the pants off somebody when he's in the ring during the winter storm outside, then he'd come out and he wouldn't have any legs on his pants, and then it was like he did many things that were really bad. Like there was a wrestler called Outback Jack where he came, like he had the Crocodile Dundee thing there, where he had the crocodile on his back, you know, the head of the crocodile.
Right.
And then they took him one night, and he just come in the territory, and they brought him to a bar, and they halcyoned him. They put pills in his drink, you know, till he passed out, and then they shaved his head, you know. But that was the guy's been dreaming to go to WWF for years and years, and he gets there, and a couple of weeks into, or maybe a month, he gets his hair shaved at a bar, and he gets brought to the airport drunk and puking all over the place, and they put some crap in his crocodile's mouth, like, you know, they took him to the bathroom and they crapped in his thing. They were doing things that were hurting people. And finally, the long story short is I was the type of guy who always spoke out. You know, Lord knows if I could go back, I'd change some things, but I was a guy that always like defended my country. If anybody were pissed off because they had to go wrestle in Canada, they would say, "Oh, that goddamn Canada," or I'd say, "Hey, the hell with you," you know, like I'd always defend my country. You know,
rightly so.
But I should have shut up, you know. But anyway, I'll have to say that all that. So they got. So I was the next McFly, like in Back to the Future, you know. I was, and I didn't like that position. So finally, I told them a couple of guys, not without going into the story, that I'm not going to stand for it. And when they found out that I was going to tell the boss about it, then they beat me up really bad. The Dynamite beat me up in the dressing room and brought me to a trauma and almost wanted to quit the business, like a few guys that they made quit before me. But I love my love of the business, and the passion for the business kept me alive, and the respect out of my father, because my father was a tough guy, a guy that was the greatest man on earth is my father. And, you know, so I needed his approval in life. All my life, I wanted him to be proud of me. And when they beat me up in the dressing room for absolutely no reason, and then I was playing cards and it came from behind, and all this happened, it caused me such a big trauma, because they did that in front of my dad when I was in Florida. My father was a snowbird, so he was gone down to Florida. So one night I was in Miami, they did that to me. And so I had to get my nerves together to do a comeback. And I finally did. I don't know how I did it. I swear to God, I'm an artiste. I'm not a fighter, but I was like a little rat when you put in the corner there. He at one time where he's going to jump, you know, no matter how big you are in front, if he has nowhere to go, he's going to jump on you, even if it's a little rat. And that's what they forced me to do. And yes, I took a roll of quarters and I put it in my hands. That's what my father's advice. And I did what I had to do. And but that caused me some serious trauma in real life, like, you know. So after I left the WWF, one of the things I started to do was I started giving conferences in schools about how to counter bullying without using violence,
Mm.
by working together. And then I started building my own credibility of helping the kids. And for 20 years, I went in the schools everywhere in Quebec, English and French side, and I showed the kids how to stop bullying. I became the spokesman in Quebec. So if I wouldn't have got beat up by the the bulldog, I never would have did all this good thing for 20 years after. So some good came out of it. And just last week, it was in Canada, whole Canada, it was Pink Shirt Day.
Mm.
And they chose me to be the spokesman because it was a little kid that wore a pink shirt and he got bullied in school and he committed suicide at the age 12 years old. So it's like so they chose me to be spokesman for that. So now I'm tagged in Canada and in Quebec for all these years of being the guy that don't stand for bullying.
Fantastic.
But I never asked for this, and I never wanted this to happen because, like you say, I'm not a fighter in real life.
Mm.
I'm not. I'm just a guy that likes to have fun, and yes, I had a big mouth, but I should. But it wasn't mean. I was never mean to anybody. It was just me. That's the way I was.
Mm.
And so when I look back at this, I say, it's a sorry thing that it happened, but it's the greatest thing that happened after that for me to help everybody, because usually the people who goes and gets into a cause like that, it's a sick person. It's someone who's been hit by this. Like, people who like to start a foundation about cancer, it's maybe because he lost his mother with cancer, or something.
Got a connection to it. Yeah.
Have a connection to it. So I had the greatest connection of it. I almost left my life in the WWF in that dressing room one night. So then after that, I was making a lot of empathy with the kids in school that were being bullied. So it was fun because after I did one or two conferences, I started realizing that I was helping the kids. They were coming to see me after the class and they were saying, well, this guy over there, he's doing this to her. And one little girl was crying one time. So I said, hey, so I went to go see the principal, I'd say, can I have a meeting with that guy and that girl and me? And what was great about all that is I had so much power in my meetings because not for the name that I had and all that, and not for the story that happened with the Bulldogs, because I never tell that stories in school because that's violence, what I did, but it was more because I'd have like 600-700 kids in the auditorium, and I would tell them, I would come in the auditorium and I would make a promise to them that if they gave me 30 minutes of their time, and they were polite and respectful to me. And then I'd point out my big mat I had, a big 2 feet thick mat there that I'd show them. And I'd say, if you guys are nice to me for a half hour, the second part of this conference, I promise you, I'm going to beat up all your teachers. Like power slams and body slams and suplexes. But I said, for you to have that candy that I'm going to give you, you have to promise you're going to listen to me for 30 minutes. So that's how I kept the crowd quiet. 700 kids, they'd listen to me like this, and they were so passionate. So, and I got a good story to tell. So and then I went from one school to another, and now I end up being spokesman in Canada for against bullying. But it's funny because it's something that came easy. It's something that came because I lived it. And when you live something like that, the fear, the person coming near you that you're afraid of, and that that they could hurt you. They've already hurt you. So I made a lot of empathy with that, and so it was easy for me to share it with them, give it back. So that was the good part of it. And for those who don't know the story, well, I could just tell you that I didn't deserve it. And to be honest with you, I only defended myself. I never bragged about it either. But if you want to go see Dark Side of the Ring, there's a something called what's it called there? I don't know how you call those stories on TV, but if you go see Dark Side of the Ring, you'll see 3 seasons. Yeah. And you'll see in the 3rd season, there's Tom Billington story. And he was a wild man, I'll tell you, not only on the road with us, then you learn in that story that with his wife too at home, he was a dangerous man. So I'm lucky to be alive today. I really am lucky. But the only thing I want to finish with the story and move on to something else is that Davey Boy Smith was a great guy. Davey Boy, his partner, when the Bulldogs, after I made my comeback on him, like 2 weeks later, they quit the business. They completely quit the business. They quit New York. They left. And then, but about a year and a half later, when I left from being the fabulous Rougeau brothers, took a year off and then came back to be the Mountie, this new character. Well, here in one dressing room one night, I'm sitting there, and then guess who comes in the dressing room? It's the Davey Boy Smith. Davey Boy. Like, I'm going, holy shit. Like, oh no, I don't want to go through this again. Like, no way. And when he got into the dressing room, the first thing he did, he came up to me and he says, can I speak to you in the showers? And I said to myself, holy shit, I'm going to keep my distance. That's for sure.
Here we go.
There we go again. And when I came in the showers, he told me, he said, Jacques, he says, I don't want to fight. he says, you were right to do what you did. And he says, I don't want no part of it anymore. And he says, I just want us to be friends. And he showed his hand to me. And I took his hand, I shook it. Oh my God, that felt good.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that felt good. Yeah.
Great stuff, man. It's good that, like you say, sometimes you have to, there's an old saying, destruction leads to a very rough road, but it also breeds creation, so something good has been created by that bad situation, basically. So it's great stuff, and it's very admirable as well what you've been doing. So I don't have a hat, but my glasses are off to you. All right.
Brilliant.
Hey, that's my line. Good man. Excellent. All right. You touched on the Mountie there. That's where I'd like to head next, if you're happy with that. So let's talk about the Mountie. Let's talk about that gimmick. How did that come about? Who's the mastermind behind the gimmick? And I'd also like to talk a little bit then about the cattle prod as well. I love that thing.
It was amazing. Like I said, we took a year off and I was at home, and then Vince calls me up one day and he says, Jacques, he says, I'd like to do this character with you, and I said, okay. He says, well, you'd be a Mountie. I said, Mountie? I'm not a policeman or nothing. I don't know nothing about being a Mountie. And so anyway, long story short is they told me they were going to come and shoot some vignettes, like some little videos to show, like 5 weeks before I entered the circuit again. You had Mean Gene Okerlund, Bobby the Brain in by the side of the ring, and Mean Gene would say, or actually it was Jesse the Body who would say something like, well, Mean Gene coming to the WWF soon is the Mountie from Canada. Let's go check it out. And there was those little vignettes.
Yeah. I remember was it one of you on a horse?
Yeah, I got to tell you that one. That was amazing. That was the classic. I swear to God, everybody reminds me of that one. Everybody. And I'm sitting on my horse. And there was a couple of versions, but the one that I remember the most, it was amazing. I was sitting on my horse and I got this serious look, and I got my Mountie hat and my Mountie suit, and there's this car that pulls up beside me. And then there's this guy, he's with his girlfriend in the car. And so he pulls up beside me, and they're about in the 20s, early 20s.
Yeah.
And then and they're extras. They're not really Americans, because we're in Quebec when we do this. But they act like they're 2 Americans that are lost. So he pulls up beside me and he puts his window down and he says, excuse me, officer. And I look down to him very arrogantly. I'm not an officer. I'm the Mountie. So the guy looks at him. He looks at his girlfriend beside him. He goes, boy, I think I got a wacko here. So then he turns back up to me and he says, excuse me, Mr. Mountie. We're lost and we'd like to get back to the USA. Can you help us? So then I'm on my horse like this. So slowly I bend down and I put my leg over my horse. I get off the horse and I get beside the window of the driver. And I look at the guy and I say, come here. So the guy looks at his girlfriend. The girlfriend says, come on, chicken, get out. So then he gets out and then he follows me and I bring him to the front of my horse. And when I get to the front of my horse, I take the horse's mouth like this and I put it up like this in the air. And I look at the American and I say, you see that part of my horse? It always points to the US. It always points to Canada. And then he looks, and then I say, come here. So then I go at the back of my horse and I lift up the tail of the horse. Yeah. And then I look at him and I say, you see that part of my horse? It always points to the USA. And then the guy just jumps in his car and he takes off like crazy. He spins his wheels and takes off. But listen, I gotta tell you now, Caiman, that the Americans, they don't have a sense of humor. So when I started wrestling, my first 3 shots I did was at the Boston Gardens and the Philadelphia Spectrum and the Long Island Nassau Coliseum, where you'd go places where they have barbed wire around the ring because people would throw some stuff in the ring. They were so wild. And when I pulled down at the arena there, where the hockey players go park at the bottom of the ramp there, and the first time I got up and I was getting hit by rocks on my head, and they really didn't like that joke I did,
Jeez. Talk about taking it to heart, like.
But it was awesome. And that character, and then so what was funny about that is when we created that character, I told Vince, I said, listen, Vince, I said, there was this old manager that used to wrestle in Quebec, or a manager, Abdullah the Butcher in Quebec, and he had this shock stick, you know, and I said, I'd like to bring a shock stick because when I was young.
So that was your idea?
Yeah, because when I was young, I was like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. Eddie Creechman used to come in the dressing room with his shock stick, and sometimes he'd just look at me and tease me, you know, and I'd be so afraid of electricity, you know. It was like,
yeah, I'm the same, man. It's freaky, isn't it?
Scary. So I thought to myself, if I believed in this, then the fans are going to believe in this, you know. And that's
definitely.
how. So Vince said, "Well, if that's what you want, go ahead, bring it." So I brought the shock stick. So that was amazing. That was really what. I got to tell you a funny story. Let me take
Go. Yeah, brilliant.
Water. I'll take a sip of water. This is funny what I'm going to tell you.
Awesome.
My first match. I'm in this big arena there. I can't remember where I was. I'm wrestling Coco Beware. You remember Coco Beware with the birds?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So Coco Beware, he wrestles with me.
Frankie, wasn't it?
Frankie's
yeah, that's right.
So here we are getting in the ring, and my shock stick is a real one. My shock stick that we created, it had 2 buttons on it. It had the on and off here, and he had the emergency button here in the back on and off. Because I wanted to make sure, you know, that I had control of this stick.
Yeah,
if a fan brought it, they tried to put the switch on, it wouldn't work because you had to have the emergency one back here. So I get in the ring, but I'm so freaking nervous. It's my first night back. So I get in the ring. I have about a 20-minute match with Coco Beware. We're all soaking wet, both of us. And then I go in and he does a favor for me. So he lays in the middle after I do something, I think a pile driver or something.
Yeah.
And then I go get my shock stick. And then I put that button on here. I don't know what happened, if I may have switched the one by accident. So I start that, and you know, this stick was made out of a lawnmower. You know, I took the motor of a lawnmower, I took the 2 coils and reversed them, the negative and the positive.
Awesome.
So that's what would make the big flame in the front, you know, about this long.
Yeah, I remember it well. Yeah.
So I go ahead and I start zapping him. And he started shaking. Man, he was shaking. And I was going like, wow.
Great sell.
I said, what a nice job he's doing for me. This is awesome. But then about 10 seconds later, you know, when you burn your skin, it smells like pig.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, so then it starts smelling like pig and he's shaking around like this. And I'm going like, and then I'm saying to myself, wow, Vince is really good with special effects, you know, this is awesome, you know, and I didn't know I was actually burning his ass.
You just zapped the shit out of him.
So when I got backstage, you know, I'm so happy. What a great sell job he did, and what a great match.
The best, yeah.
So I'm waiting behind the curtains to give him the big hug there, and he came flying through, man. He wanted to kick my ass bad. It's like, whoa. And it wasn't. Let's put it this way. It wasn't a good first impression for all the boys that were backstage.
I dare say.
You're not gonna zap my ass, that's for sure. You know, but a lot of guys kept. I think it was Bobby. And he kept saying, "Well, it's a good thing he didn't zap Frankie." You know, like. Holy shit.
I was going to ask you about the stick, the cattle prod, and what the mechanics were behind it. So it was legit then as well. There was legitimacy behind it as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. But
did anyone else ever come up a cropper?
Well, you know what? To be honest with you, at the Dynamite Kid once time, he took my stick and and actually it was in Manchester, and he scared the pissing shit out of a Virgil, you know, a $1 Million Man's manager.
Of course,
and that was another. He was bullying him a lot, and he used a stick, and I was looking all over for my stick. And finally, when I heard that he'd done that, I went to get my stick, but I was so pissed off because he was using my gimmick to hurt people. You know, and stuff. But no, in the ring, no, nothing ever happened more like that. Believe me, I never messed that second finger up there.
Yeah, spitting and all that, right?
And you should have seen the next opponents, how much they were afraid, you know.
I bet, yeah. They're all waiting. Is it going to be me? Is it going to be me?
They'd run in the dressing room to see the lineup to make sure they weren't against
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah,
so, Intercontinental Championship reign then as well. Yeah. So, in fact, let's go before that. It was the jailhouse match, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. That was awesome. A big
1991 boss. Big Boss Man. If I may promo, cattle prod along the bars, through these doors walk the filthiest, scummiest people. And through these same doors, you will be walking, boss man, after our matchup at the SummerSlam. Something like that, yeah? Was that on cue-ish?
That's all right. That's close to me.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I like that. That was great.
But it was great because, when I first came in, Vince was giving me all kinds of opponents that I was beaten, and I was a big heel. And Big Boss Man was beating all kinds of heels, and so he was, and there was like the Canadian law enforcement officer against the American law enforcement.
That's it. It's great.
They kept building closer and closer to that jailhouse match where a tremendous thing happened to me, being pay-per-view, one of the second main event, on that card, But it was so funny. It was seen across the world that every arena was full, but there was no wrestling. It was just giant screens, and and they saw me go to jail that night.
That's right. Yeah.
But I remember it was so funny because I was always hoping going up to that match that I would have a longevity with that character, that they wouldn't beat me right away, that I would hopefully that I'd go over in that match. And I remember somehow that maybe with Jimmy Hart we'd cheat in something, and then Bossman would go spend the night in jail. That could have been a lot longer. I thought that we could have done a lot longer with that gimmick. But anyway, what happened is when I really understood what was going on is that morning that we went to Madison Square Garden. We arrived the day before, and then about at 9 o'clock in the morning, I get this call in my room, my hotel room, and they asked me. They said, "Jacques, would you mind going to the New York precinct? We're going to do a couple of videos." And I'm saying, like, okay, that's not too promising, So anyway, I got there. Then we did it was one of the first times actually that I remember when we did the sequence in the morning, because after we wrestled early that night. We wrestled like in the second match. We were the second main event, but they put us on second because after every match after that, they kept going back to the precinct to see. Mean Gene would say, and Jesse the Body say, "Well, let's go back to the New York precinct and see how the Mountie's doing."
Yeah.
So we did all those vignettes in the morning, and I remember that vignette we did where they wanted to put my fingers in this.
That's ink, right, the fingerprints. Yeah.
And it was one of the first times where the officer kept pulling. I was pulling back, not because I wasn't a criminal in my own mind, I was an international law enforcement.
Yeah.
You can't do this to me. And so he was trying to put my finger in there, and he says, "Give me your finger." And I said, "No." And he's giving me a finger, and I said, "You want my finger?" That was one of the first fingers that ever came in the WWF.
Was it? Long before the Stone Cold Steve Austin finger, yeah?
Yeah, and then where did you think he took the gimmick? No.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. Have a word, Jacques.
But here's another one that was funny too, is because they wanted to take a picture with me with numbers, like, I'm a criminal, a number, and I was keeping my head down, and then here comes Big Boss Man out of nowhere, from behind, and you can only hear him, you can't see him, but he goes like this, and the guy's saying, "Show your face, Mountie, show your face." And I'm going, "No, you can't do this. I'm an international law enforcement. I want my lawyer." And then Mountie, put your face up. No. And here comes Big Boss Man in the background, and he says, "Hey, Mountie, you're going to spend the night in jail. Who's going to spend the night with your wife?" And I went like this, and then they took the picture. It was like, but all these vignettes keep coming out one after the other. And then the last one, when I was put in the jail with the gay guy, there was a guy that was gay. It was so funny because there's big guys behind me, and I'd throw me in the cell, and "You can't do this. And I'm the internet." And the guy's tapping me on the shoulder, "Leave me alone." And then finally I turn around, there's this big, huge guy, and I look up to, and then he's like almost a giant in my eyes. And then he goes like this. He comes close to me with the camera with a real mean face. And then he looks at me and he says, "Hi." Like, like the Moutie's gonna get through.
I know, literally. I've got to say it. Brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant.
But I'll tell you, that was one of the highlights of my career with the Boss Man. It
was fantastic. How was he to work as well?
People were very entertained with that storyline. It was really awesome. A great memory. Ray Traylor was one of the best guys in the dressing room. Another Owen Hart. Yeah. He was one of those guys that he would never argue with anybody. He was always so funny. He was always the kind of guy you want to be around, and people thought he was a rough and tough guy, but he was the nicest guy to be with, and God bless his soul. Yeah.
Yeah. God rest his soul. I'll drink to that.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. So there was the Intercontinental Championship reign then as well. Yeah, let's talk a little about that. So, how did it all come about? And we know where it ended then. Obviously, it was the Royal Rumble match with Roddy Piper. Let's talk through the build up to that then. How did it come about?
Well, there wasn't too much buildup because it was only a 2-day thing. So I'll tell you what, it was more, I think, a conflict between Bret Hart and Rowdy Piper. I think that Bret didn't want to drop the belt to Piper.
Yeah.
So Vince had to find a way to switch the belts. So they needed this guy to play this role there. So I beat Bret. And then it was so funny because I always remember that because Bret was the greatest guy, nicest guy. I liked Bret. I loved him since he was bus driver in Calgary in 77, way up, and I really enjoyed him. But he was a hard businessman. He didn't like to lose. He wasn't. He knew how to market himself to go up and up and up, and so he didn't want to get beat by Piper. And even it was so funny because the night that I beat him in Springfield, Illinois, it was like. Springfield, Massachusetts. Springfield, Massachusetts. And when they brought me together in the dressing room, Pat told me Vince wanted to see me. So I got into the little locker room, and then Vince says to me, he says, "Well, Jacques," he says, "I got good news and I got bad news." He says, "Which one you want the first?" I said, "Give me the good news." And he says, "Well, you're going to become tonight the new Intercontinental Champion." I said, "No." And I was like jumping around, and then he says, "Oh, sit down, Jacques, sit down, John."
Don't get too excited.
So then they told me, like, I said, "Well, you want to hear the bad news?" He said, "Yeah." So he says, "You're going to lose it Saturday against Piper on the pay-per-view." I said, "Okay," but I wasn't frustrated at all because I was just so amazed that he chose me to do the switch. But I wasn't. I always say when you watch a great movie today in theaters, if you have a great Batman, it's because you had a better Joker. You always need a good villain to have a good babyface. So if he chose me to do that position, it's because he had a lot of respect for me. So the story about that, which is really funny, is that as soon as I left that night and I got back to my hotel room, I called this newspaper guy, this old man. He's about like my age now, anyway. So I call this guy up and I say, "Andre," I said, "Andre." He says, so he probably went to bed at 8 o'clock, So I wake him up around 11, and then he says, "Hello." I said, "Andre." I said, Jacques. Jesus Christ, Jacques. He says, 11 o'clock at night. He says, "Listen," he says, "let me sleep." He says, "Call me on Thursday." And like next Thursday.
Wow.
I said, no, I can't do that, Andre. I can't do that. I said, "Listen," I said, "I'm going to send you a picture tonight." He says, "Call me in a couple of days." I said, "No, Andre, I can't do that because you won't be up to date in the news." So it's like, I've
got a scoop for you, man. I've got a scoop.
Exactly. So I put the picture in the Montreal paper. I thank God I had it in time just enough before the switch. But it was a great story because Bret didn't want to really drop the belt at all, but he not only that I took the title from him that night, but when I went into the ring first, and when he came out, he was like so weak, and then the announcer came in and took the mic and said, "Bret Hart, against the will of his doctor because of a fever of 104.
That's right. Yeah,
he's gonna wrestle." So I don't think I beat anybody but a sick guy. But anyway,
that's just attention to detail, Jacques, right?
But long story short, what was funny about it is I had this idea when I went to see Piper, and it was my idea. And I told the Rowdy, I said, "Listen," I said, I'm going to be the shortest lived Intercontinental Champion. I said, "But I had this idea just to save face a little bit." I said, "Would you mind?" I said, "I'm going to do this finish at the end where I zap you." And then he looked at me, Piper. I said, "I'll zap you." But I said, "You don't sell it." I said, "But what you do is under your shirt, you'll have an anti-vest like a policeman."
That's right.
Like
yes. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So when I zap you, you just take a bump, but I'll turn around. "I am the Mountie." And I said, "You get right back up and you pull your shirt off and it says anti-shock on it." Like, and then he boom, 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 and he kicked my ass and beat me. But it was like, but I like that because it was like, it was different.
Yeah.
And then Rowdy loved it. Rowdy looked at me and says, "I love it, brother. I love it."
Awesome.
So we did it. So that was fun. That was nice.
Fantastic stuff. Fantastic. So skipping forward in time again, then back in the tag team ranks, then teaming up with Carl, aka Pierre, as the Quebecers. Talk us through that.
Well, Carl Ouellette is, I'm actually between characters again. The Royal Canadian Mountie actually banned me for being on TV because I was giving a bad image. So they put a lawsuit against Vince McMahon to get me off TV.
Yeah,
So
briefly tell us about that first before we step in then.
well, it's like, it's like the Mounties took themselves a little too seriously. It's like,
Yeah.
how many times you watch a movie where there's a dirty cop,
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay, but there's an expression that say, "Hey, get off your high horse," and I think the Mounties didn't understand that expression.
Yeah.
Anyway, so long story
Took it to
short,
heart.
so they took the lawsuit and everything, so that my character died off really fast. So I took a year off, and I was happy to go back home again, with my kids, and I was doing independent shows once in a while, and I'd go wrestle sometimes with Carlos Colon in Puerto Rico. So I'm on the beach that day. I'm doing a shot that night. I'm wrestling Abdullah the Butcher that night. So and then on the day I'm on the beach, and then this guy comes up to me and he taps me on the shoulder in the back, and he says, "Hey Jacques," he says, but in French, he says, "Hey Jacques, ça va bien?" So I go like this, "Oh, tu parles français." Like he says, yeah. So we start talking, and he says, "Listen," he says, "I don't want to bother you or nothing, but he says, would you mind just checking my match? I'm on first tonight, and I'd like you just to check my match." He says, "I've been sending tapes to WWF for 10 years, and he says, no one's, returning the calls or nothing, and so I said, yeah, sure, I'll do that. He's a French guy from my home, and I like that. So I watch this match, and I see this guy who takes bumps over the top ropes, and he's like Gumby, the little green man when you're young there, that he break him in half and he comes back to normal. And so I couldn't believe the bumps he was taking and everything. And then I got this idea. Wow, what a team me and him would make. I'm an old timer now. I'm getting there, and he's a bumper. I'm a talker. He's a bumper.
Perfect.
So, what great shimmy for
Perfect
me.
match, yeah.
So I told Carl, I said, after his match, I said, he asked me, he said, "Did you see my match?" I said, "Yeah, I saw your match. I'm very impressed." I said, "Listen," I said, "let me get back home for a couple of days and call me." And he says, "Why?" I said, "Just call me." I said, "I may work something out for you." He says, "No." I said, "Really? Call me." So in the meantime, I called Vince. And I was in the good graces of Vince very much in those days. So I just called Vince up, and I told him, I said, "Vince, I got this guy I found. He speaks French. He's from my home." And I said, "He's been trying very hard to get into WWF." And I said, "I think he'd be a great asset. And I think we'd do a great team, me and him, And then he said, "Jacques, if that's what you want," he says, "let's do it." So I said, "Well, give me 5-6 months." I said, "We're going to set up a ring at my house, and we're going to practice, And so he came to my house for like 5-6 months, and we were practicing different kind of moves, different tag teams. And I was taking a little bit of the what he did best, the big dangerous moves, and what I did best with working together as two in the tag team, and I put it together. And we started putting this character of all these moves where we needed one another to do a move. We couldn't do a move alone. We'd always work together to do a move, whether it was the leg sweep with the clothesline at the same time, or whether it was the tower on the top rope.
That's right, and the little flip,
So everything we did was together, or it was even just picking my own partner up in a body slam and slamming him on the opponent, and stuff like that. Everything was done together. And then the first night we came back in Manhattan Center in New York, the first night we beat the Steiners for the belts with the Quebec rules there with Johnny Polo as our manager.
That's right.
And that was amazing, from this guy in Puerto Rico who wanted to get in WWF, and his first night in WWF, he becomes world tag team champion,
Awesome.
And so what a great story, and then we won the belts 3 times during the next year and stuff. So that was a great era also. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that.
Excellent stuff. Excellent. I got to wrestle Carl as well in Irish Whip Wrestling. It must have been 2009-ish, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a strong boy, shall we say? A strong boy.
he's still going. He's like the
he's doing great now. It's just like
keeps on going.
Yeah, he's totally re-emerged as this new presence as well as a PCO. It's fantastic. He's doing great things. Good stuff. He's doing a great job, and it's great to see as well. And it's great to have had the pleasure of sharing a ring with him as well.
For sure. Good for you.
Yeah, no, good stuff. So let's talk a little bit about the now then. What's going on at the moment? So you're
Wrestling Academy.
Yes.
Let's talk.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Now we're going to get into some serious stuff.
Absolutely.
You know, there was a TV show in Montreal where they had the thing for singers. It's almost like The Voice and stuff like that. But where there was a competition that they had for local singers in French, where there were about 20 singers, and every week they would eliminate some singers to make it to the last singer who would win, would sing in the Montreal Bell Center was Celine Dion. You know, so that would be the biggest contest. So I had this idea at one point, you know, and I'm thinking like, what if we did this with wrestlers, you know, but you know, there's 10 provinces in Quebec, for those who don't know it, there's 10 provinces and they're all independent provinces, and we're the French one. So we're really the independent one, and all the other 9 ones are pretty much English, you know? And so it's like, so I said to myself, and every promotion, every small indie wrestling shows, they all have their own thing in their own province. So I said to myself, why don't I go pick the best wrestlers of the 10 provinces and pick up 40 talent together and just bring them up, men and women, and just bring them together in this competition where we're going to eliminate 4 wrestlers every show. We're starting with 40. And every show we do, we're going to eliminate 4. There'll be 3 judges by the ring that are going to vote at 40% only. But at 60%, it's going to be the people around the world that'll be able to text things. So anybody at your home now, you could go on your laptop and you could join wrestling-academy.ca, and soon you'll get the notification for the voting, and you'll be able to vote from either Australia, from Cayman Islands, from everywhere in the world. You know, you'll be able to vote to who you want to keep and who you want to get rid of. So it's going to be like a reality show. And now it's amazing in Canada. Everybody's on fire about this project. And I thought to myself when I started this, I said, how can I make this interesting? So I said to myself, well, you know, the indies usually make a couple of $100 a night, you know, maybe between $50 to $200 a night. You know, there's not a lot of money to be made. And most of the Canadian wrestlers that are in the indies, they have a real job. Yeah. You know, wrestling is their second job. You know, it's like their hobby or their part-time job, the weekends. Well, so I can relate. So I said to myself, we all could have done before I went to the WWF also. So now I'm looking at this thing where I'm saying, how can I make this interesting? So I found 4 sponsors who I got. They each put in $5,000. So the last 4 are going to win $5,000. And then I'm saying to myself, so I started recruiting around Canada, you know, but then I thought to myself, wow, I need a bigger prize. So I got to tell you this amazing story. I called this guy, QT Marshall, at the Nightmare Factory. It's one of the largest and the best wrestling schools in North America. Yeah. Where the AEW actually recruits from that school. Awesome. for world talent. You know, so I called this guy up. I don't know him because I haven't watched wrestling in 30 years. I got really turned off with Vince, so I don't know any of the guys. I don't know QT Marshall. I don't know who he is, but I get this number from somebody, and I call him up. I said, Mr. Marshall, I said, listen, I'm doing a contest in Canada, and I'd like to give them a bonus. I said, so I'm going to give them $5,000 each for the 4 winners. After starting from 40, we're going to get down to 4. And I said, I was wondering if it was possible if I took my 4 winners to Atlanta, Georgia at the Nightmare Factory for one day, just for you to look at them and evaluate them and give them a little lesson, you know, just bring them in the ring and for one day, just for them to live what it is, to experience what it is to live with the big time, you know, and one day at the Nightmare Factory. So he says, Mr. Rougeau. So he starts calling me Mr. Rougeau, and he's giving me all this respect. It's so funny. Like he must have followed me in my career, I guess, when he was younger, because he's about 40 years old. I'm at 61. So he starts talking to me with all this respect, and he says, I'd love to do that. I'd love to. I said, wow. So I turn back around. I tell all my talent in Canada, hey, not only are you going to get $5,000 of 4 winners, but you're going to spend a day at the Nightmare Factory where a lot of the wrestlers go in there, and you'll be evaluated on an interview in the ring to see how good you are and just to be seen for one day. So I'm going now for the next, that was 8 months ago. So for the next 6 months, 7 months, I'm going on this rage of podcasts. I did some in Australia. I did some in England. I did some everywhere in the world. I'm doing podcasts. I do at least 4 podcasts a week for the last 6 months. Awesome. And every time I go on the podcast, I talk about the Nightmare Factory, the Nightmare Factory. So about a month ago, QT Marshall calls me up and he says, Jacques. So I'm going, oh shit, something's wrong, or he's going to pull out or something, I was afraid. And he says, Jacques, he says, what are you doing? He says, my phone at the Nightmare Factory is red.
Off the hook.
People are calling from all over. They want to join. They want to know about the Nightmare Factory. He says, what great promotion you're doing for me, And I'm saying, well, thank you. He says, so why don't I do something? He says, instead of your guys coming and then the girls coming for one day, your 4 winners, why don't I give them a week? So I go like that, a week. So I'm thinking right away, wow, a week. It's like now you don't have to worry about, that you go one day, you got a dry throat, you're nervous. You don't have a second chance to make a first impression. It's you do or you die.
That's right.
Yeah. So now I'm thinking, wow, you fuck up on Monday, you got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to make up again.
To swing it back around, yeah.
So I go and I call all my Canadian talent and I say, hey, wow. I said, listen, guys, this is amazing. This is what happened. So I send them the video that Cutie sends to me. He gives me a week. So now about a month ago, he calls me back. A month ago, and I'd like to show you a video if you don't mind. I think you got it ready. So why don't we look at the video right now?
Let's take a look at that video right about now. Check it out, guys, right here.
Hey everybody, this is QT Marshall from All Elite Wrestling and one of the owners of one of the best training facilities in the world, the Nightmare Factory. And I wanted to give a quick shout out to Nick, who runs a Rise podcast, and this evening has Jacques Rougeau on there. And Jacques has a great project in the works. I'm excited about it. In fact, the Nightmare Factory has even told Mr. Rougeau that the winners of this project will receive a special 3-month, 12-week scholarship to the Nightmare Factory, which has seen athletes from all over the world come train with us. And honestly, some have signed contracts with major wrestling organizations in the world, such as AEW and stuff like that. So I'm excited for this project. I think it's great for aspiring professional wrestlers all throughout Canada. I support it, and I hope that if all works out well, I'll be able to come up to Montreal and partake in being one of the judges of this special project. So good luck to everyone. Just wanted to say hello. Just wanted to let everybody know that it is me, and we are offering this scholarship to the winners. So you can read into it whatever you want, but you've heard it straight from the horse's mouth. It is true. And again, good luck to everyone, and hopefully see you soon.
Amazing.
Absolutely amazing. Fantastic. What an opportunity.
So 3 months now. I'm going wild here in Canada, because there I created this little thing. It's becoming so big. And I also think now, after seeing this video, that when I saw this video the first time, about a month ago, I'm going on a podcast for Nick Drose's podcast. So I asked QT, I said, QT, I never asked him anything in 8 months. So then I asked him, I said, would you please do me another video just to show that it's still existing, this contest, that it's real, So he sends me that video while I'm in the middle of a podcast. So
incredible.
I just saw it before going on the podcast. So me and my girlfriend were looking at this video and we go like, 3 months, 3 months. Rewind it. So then, and man, that just that exploded in Canada.
That's a great opportunity and a life-changing opportunity as well.
4 winners are winning $5,000, and now they're going 3 months. You know what that means? I'll tell you what it means real fast. Forget the dry throat, the dry throat, and the never have a second chance to make a first impression. You go for a week. At the beginning, it's hi, Mr. Marshall. At the end of the week, it's okay. See, Mr. QT. They know him for a week.
Yeah.
After a month in the wrestling school, it's like, how you doing, QT?
Yeah.
And after 2 months, it's, hey, buddy. And after 3 months, it's become a pet project for him.
Yeah.
So now it's like, and there's two there's two things. I can't say the word in English. There's 2 things that make it that you could make it in wrestling. It's the first thing is being at the right place at the right time. And the second thing is knowing the right people. So now my talent here are going to go to QT Marshall School for 3 months, where it's in Atlanta, where all the AEW stars work out during the day. So now, and I know Jake the Snakes hangs around there and a couple of guys hanging. So now you're going to be there working for 3 months, and the talent's going to come in, and now they're going to start to really like you and have fun. And they may go by the ring and just say, you know what, if I were you, I'd work on this little thing here, on this. And then they get to like you. And then if you're smart enough, you're polite and you're respectful and you're really likable, then you get in a position where you know the right people. And I honestly think you're at the right place. And you know what? To be honest with you, I look at QT Marshall, who's taking this project like his own pet project. And I honestly believe, and I told my talent, when I announced to them that it's 3 months, I showed them that video, they went berserk. Everybody went berserk. I looked at them and I said to myself, you know what? I can't guarantee you this, guys and girls, but I'll tell you one thing. I honestly do believe that 2 out of my 4 winners may make it to the big leagues.
That's fantastic.
I think so.
Yeah.
And because, you know, I have a lot of talent in Canada. It's amazing the talent that's in the contest. So go see, by the way, wrestling-academy.ca. Wrestling-academy.ca, and you'll see all the videos, but not only you'll see every talent that's on this contest. You could log in and just press on the picture, and then you'll see a 30-second video of them where you can see them in action talking and stuff. But not only that, for the old timers, you know, the people that are 40 years and older, if you go on there, you're going to see a bunch of old timers that are giving some good luck videos. Like, you know, they're saying like, hey, you Canadian wrestlers like Bret the Hitman Hart. You'll see Double J Jeff Jarrett. You'll see Jake the Snake Roberts. You'll see the Bushwhacker Luke. You'll see Lanny Poffo. You'll see GSP in the MMA. And then you'll start seeing some professional singers, some comedians. Like everybody's got into this wave.
Yeah,
saying,
it's all going on.
Don't miss up this chance here, you know, like this is this is like the home run here, you know, if you get into this. So now it's incredible. We just got our dates today. The first date, we're starting on the 15th of May. Not the date that you'll be able to vote, but the date that we're starting to film, because it won't be on TV, it won't be live. It's going to be on YouTube, on my channel, on wrestling-academy.ca. Go in, log in, and check in, and when we get the news to show you where to vote and stuff, you'll be able to follow this contest. But this is the greatest thing, because out of the 41 years I spent in the business as a wrestler, I'm now passing the torch. You know, I'm giving the torch to the younger guys, and then to the younger girls that are amazing talent. So this is a first in Canada. It's never been seen that the 10 provinces are working together. And there's so much good coming out. And it's like I tell the guys too, and the girls in this experience, I tell them, hey guys, even if you don't make it to the 4 last ones, for the last 8 months, QT Marshall's been checking the videos out. He knows you.
Well, that's it. He knows who they are, yeah.
And plus, in the promoter, and not only here, because I've been doing podcasts around the world, you know, and I said, but most important and more logically, the Vancouver promoter that's on the West Coast and the Pacific side, and he's talking, he sees this promoter in the East Coast, in the Maritimes, you know, and then they never knew they existed. And now they're going to be able to see that talent that's coming from there. So they'll be able to call me and say, hey, I'd like to have this guy in my show, you know. So I created something like I don't know how to explain that, like a bit of a network. A network's the word.
Yeah, network.
I'm going to create a network.
That one's on me.
Thank you. Brilliant.
Yeah, you can have that one as well.
So all this to say, what a great thing that's happening in my life. From the day I was born, I was into wrestling, and I hope until the day I die that I'll be able to give back to the wrestlers and the community of wrestling.
Fantastic stuff. A fantastic opportunity, a fantastic foot in the door. We'll drop some links in on the audio and the video as well. All right. So we'll do what we come for you. Fantastic.
Thank you very
Great
much.
opportunity. Check it out, everybody. So before we wrap up, if you'd just like to give us a little overview of your wrestling career in I don't know, a couple of sentences. How's it been for you?
Well, you know what? Instead of bragging of everything I've done in 41 years, I'm just going to give a word of advice to the young people, the students, the young people. Sometimes you have a dream in life, and you try for it, and you don't make it because you're in a group, or you don't get chosen, or there's some people better than you. But the only advice I'm going to give you is do it again. If you missed the first time, try again. And if you miss the second time, try again. Learn and try again, because even if you spend 3 years to become something you wanted to be when you were young, it's worth the 3 years. Because, you know, if you spend 50 years or 40 years of your lifetime punching your card in a job that you don't like, life is going to be long. But if you spend your life like me, I spent in wrestling, it was my passion. And I didn't see my life go by because I lived the dream. It was my dream. So you have to live your passion. And if you miss the first time, go back and go learn. And even if it takes you 3-5 years to make it, because once you start living your passion, life is going to be beautiful. You won't need drugs to get by in life. You won't need the crutches. You won't need, you're going to be living your passion. And when you live your passion, like I lived my passion, life never ends. The day life is going to end with me is when I stop breathing, because until then, you know, if you ever you meet me someday, talk wrestling to me, because I like wrestling and it's my passion. So live your dream. And that's all I could say to the people. And say no, and say no to bullying, and tolerance zero. And you know what the hardest thing about bullying is, my friend? It's not being bullied. It's going to tell the people that you're being bullied. And that's the scariest thing in life, because, you know, you're saying to yourself, man, I'm already getting beaten up, or I'm already afraid of him, and he knows it, and he's willing. What if I go to tell on him? Then he's going to be a lot worse, but it won't be. Because the hardest thing is to make that step forward and to pronounce yourself. And if you pronounce yourself, and people around you today, with all the tools we have today in schools and the tolerance zero and everything, you will make it a better life, and you will help some people around you. So just step up if you're bullied in life, and it will change. It changed mine, and I guarantee you it will change yours.
Fantastic stuff. Jacques Rougeau, it has been absolutely brilliant.
Like
Like what I did there.
I feel like I was in the Cayman Islands the whole time.
Hey, Planet Cayman. That's me. Hey, it's been an absolute pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing some of your time with us. Really appreciate it. Do keep in touch, and all the best with everything going forward.
You just make sure that you subscribe to wrestling-academy.ca and follow this experience. It's the first one. There's going to be many more now in different countries, because it had to start somewhere, and it started with me. But just go ahead and live this experience with me, and vote for the people you want to keep. And who knows, maybe one day you'll meet one of my students or one of those people in Canada, and they'll become superstars, and you'll be able to see them in an arena close to your home, and you'll come up to them and you'll say, hey, you may not know this, but I voted for you, you know.
Awesome.
You never know, my friend.
Fantastic.
Caiman, I'm going to say goodbye to you. Thank you so much for having me on board, and what a great promo this was, a podcast. It was awesome.
Hey, Jacques, it's been an absolute pleasure. Pleasure's all mine. You take care. Look after yourself and your family. All the very best.
Thank you very much.
Jacques Rougeau on the Cayman Show, everybody. Woohoo!